Medicare Part D, what is it? I'll explain it next in a minute with Marty, so stay tuned. So what is Medicare Part D? Medicare Part D covers prescription drugs. Medicare Part D is a federal program that began in 2006. It provides Medicare beneficiaries with access to retail prescription drugs at an affordable copay. Medicare Part D coverage is for retail prescription drugs that you obtain at a retail pharmacy. This voluntary program allows you access to medications at a more affordable rate and helps provide coverage against catastrophic drug cost. So in Medicare Part D, the cost of that, what do those costs include? Several things here. One, you first must pay your monthly premium. That's a given every month. Next, there is a cost sharing that you will pay at the pharmacy for your medications. That cost sharing may include some deductible spending if your Medicare Part D has a prescription deductible. The third is copay. You have a copay tiers. Depending on the cost of the medication, it'll fall in a tiered classification. Within those tiers, you'll have to pay a different amount for that medication. Some of the tier, maybe a tier 0, some of tier 1 medications may even have a $0 copay. Medicare Part D premiums, the monthly premiums. The monthly premiums for Part D drug plans, they're going to vary by state and they're going to vary by insurance company depending on the specific plan that you choose. It's important to choose the plan with a formulary that offers the medications you need. Don't always look at that cheapest plan. Sometimes, people want to just look at whichever is the cheapest plan. If you just enroll in the cheapest plan without checking the plan's formulary, you may later learn that the plan doesn't even cover your medications. So it may benefit you to pay a slightly higher monthly premium to find a plan that covers your medication at a lower copay. So you say, Marty, kind of explain the formulary. The formulary is going to list all the covered medications that's on that plan. And those carriers, based off price, are going to put those in a lot of cases, 5 different tiers. And those tiers are going to be based off the cost of those medications. So if you have a $0 copay, typically you're going to say, oh, that's going to be a lower cost medication. You got something over here with a $300 copay, you're going to know that is a very expensive medication. So always find out when you're looking at those medications where that's going to fall in that tier on that particular carrier formulary. Some people with higher incomes may have to pay more for their Medicare Part D plan. If you earned above a certain threshold that Medicare sets, then Medicare will also require you to pay extra for your Part D coverage. This is called the income monthly adjusted amount. That won't affect everybody, but there will be some people that will affect you. You can visit our website at hscbenefits.com and go to our Learning Hub to see the annually adjusted numbers. We make sure we update those numbers yearly because they do change. So our charts will let you know if you owe more for your Part D premium other than the plan premium. And that's good to know because, we can quote you one particular plan, but a price on a plan, but if we don't know if your income's above that particular threshold, that they're going to send you a letter and say, look, you owe additional because of your income. Part D cost sharing. There are cost sharing costs when you go to the pharmacy to pick up your medications. Most plans require a deductible to be met first. Then you will pay a copay for each covered medication. The Medicare Part D deductible. This means that each insurance company can require you to meet your deductible before the benefits kick in. The carrier can never charge a higher deductible than what Medicare allows for that year. To offer a richer benefit, the carrier can decide to offer as little as a $0 deductible. But in general, the drug plans that charge the deductible will have the lower monthly premiums and the lower drug copays. For those companies that have lower prescription deductibles or waive the deductible entirely, the premiums and the copays are usually higher than the plans that charge a deductible. So the Medicare Part D copays. Medicare Part D plans usually provide a 5-tier formulary. Now, we mentioned what that formulary was earlier. A Tier 1 copay is, again, usually the preferred generic medication. Tier 2 would be a non-preferred generic. Tier 3 could be a preferred brand name, and so on when they put those in there. The insurance company will set the copay for each of those tiers. For example, one company may charge a $3 copay for Tier 1, while the other may charge $5. So definitely look at those things when you go to look at a plan. Of course, the more costly the medication is, the higher the tier that plan will charge. It's also important to discuss that the cost of the medications when you meet with your physician. This is why it's important to review the plan's formulary to make sure that your medications are covered and know what to expect when you pay for those medications. You may want to take a copy of the formulary to your doctor's office when you meet with your doctor and say, "Doc, here are the medications for my condition that are on a 0 tier or a Tier 1 that will cost you less money." And if you can take those, or you can take a generic, definitely take a look at that formulary every year, because again, needs change. We encourage you to review your Part D plan annually to ensure that you have the lowest out-of-pocket drug spending for the next plan year. Also, someone may qualify for the extra help for your Part D cost. If you qualify, the federal government offers help with paying for your Part D drug plan expenses. This is called a low-income subsidy. Anyone can apply for this through the Social Security, but help is awarded based off lower income and limited resources. So based off your household size, you must have an annual income that falls below the 150% of the federal poverty level. So again, it could be something that you qualify for. Beneficiaries who qualify will receive that assistance with paying for their monthly Part D premiums, their annual Part D deductible, and their copays for retail medications. Someone who qualifies for the full subsidy would have 100% of their Part D premium paid for up to that benchmark allowed by Medicare of that particular year. So if you think that you would qualify, it'll be worth your time to contact the Social Security office for an application. Now, Medicare Part D enrollment. Medicare Part D, again, is a voluntary program. Even though it's voluntary, without it, you may pay a lot for those medications that you may need down the road. Never decide if you should or should not take Part D based off your need of today, because tomorrow, those needs change. Those needs can change tomorrow. If Medicare will be your primary coverage, you should enroll in Part D when you first become eligible at the age of 65. Many people who are still working at age 65, and a lot do, can delay their enrollment in Part D until they retire. As long as your employer insurance has drug coverage that is as good or better than Medicare Part D, you can delay that enrollment. And if you're still working, your employer's carrier will send out a yearly letter stating whether or not your coverage there at your employer meets that definition. So definitely keep that in mind. How do I enroll in Part D? You must enroll in Part D plan in the service area where you live. So that's number one. You can enroll in Part D directly with a Medicare Part D insurance provider or through an agent like us who specializes in Medicare products. Enrolling through an agent means you'll have an extra resource to help you when you have questions or problems with your drug plan. You can also enroll in Part D through the Medicare's website or by calling Medicare at 1-800-MEDICARE. The cost is the same whether you go it alone or through Medicare or you contact your local Medicare agent. So that's the benefit for you there. You got a local contact. Some Medicare Advantage plans will also include a Part D drug coverage in that Medicare Advantage plan. You see them on TV all the time during open enrollment season. It's important to check exactly the medications that the Medicare Advantage plan includes before enrolling. You got to know that your medications are on that plan if they're going to cover the Part D within that plan. So make sure, again, the plan covers your medications. You can only be enrolled in one Part D plan at a time, which means you cannot be enrolled in both a Medicare Advantage plan that has the Part D and a separate Part D prescription plan at the same time. So those are some key things to remember. When do I enroll in a Part D? Joining a Medicare Part D drug plan can only be done during a certain window of time. You're eligible to enroll in Part D when you first enroll in Medicare. This is called the initial enrollment period, and it lasts 7 months. It includes the 3 months before you turn 65, your birth month, and then the 3 months following your birth month. Those are the 7 months. A similar window exists for people who first become eligible for Medicare due to a disability. Medicare Part D also has an annual election period, which runs from, and you see it in the commercials and just about get tired of it by the time it's over with, October the 15th through December the 7th. During this time, you can enroll or disenroll from any drug plan. This is because each part of Plan D's plan benefits, their formulary, their pharmacy network, the provider network, premiums, copays, all of that can change again as of January the 1st of every year. So make sure you review that and understand that. Since those things change, Medicare, gives you an annual election period to make that change. And this, again, is the time to review your prescription needs. To assist you in the review, the insurance company will mail you an annual notice of change. Look for that in the mail every year. And it comes out generally every September. It will list everything that's changing with your plan for the following year. If you're fine with the changes, your Part D drug plan will automatically renew in January. This is why it's very important to do an annual review of your medications. It's really important, and because your needs are going to change. Again, what happened to you the previous year may be something totally different this year, and where you're seeing different things go in the previous year. So always review those things. It's very important. Special election period for Medicare Part D. Once enrolled in Medicare Part D, you are locked into that plan for the rest of the calendar year. You must wait for the next annual election period to change or disenroll. However, Medicare does recognize that there might be certain circumstances in which you need to make a change mid-year. They have created what's called a special election period. One example would be if you move out of state or you lose your group medical coverage mid-year. This kind of situation creates the special election period, which you can make a change if necessary. Is Medicare Part D right for me? There are dozens of drug plans that's offered in most states. Fortunately, we can assist you with evaluating each plan based on your individual needs. Your individual needs are going to be different than your neighbor's. So your neighbor may have this plan, you may have this plan, but it's all tailored to you. We'll help you determine which drug plans offer the specific medications you need at the lowest copay. So this was just a brief introduction into Medicare Part D. Make sure you watch our other videos on our YouTube channel or visit our Learning Hub at hfcbenefits.com. That'll explain in better detail each part of Medicare. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button at the bottom of the video. It'll help other people find this important information. Again, I hope this was beneficial to you today because this was A Minute with Marty. Have a good day.